Today, we're going to get our hands a little dirty, talking about a really powerful idea called natural farming. It's a way of thinking that could heal our soil, our food, and maybe even our economies. So, yeah, let's dig in.
Here's a thought I want you to hold on to as we go through this. What if the real solution to our farming problems isn't about inventing something new? What if it's not about shinier tech or stronger chemicals, but about looking back and remembering the incredibly smart systems nature has had in place all along?
It really all boils down to two totally different ways of seeing the world. On one side, you have farming as a fight, right? A war against nature using a bunch of expensive chemicals. But on the other side, you have a partnership. And the difference is just staggering. You go from fighting nature to working with it, from spending a ton of money to spending almost nothing. And the big one, you go from destroying soil to actually rebuilding it. To really get why this matters so much, we have to start from the ground up, literally. We need to look at the soil under our feet and face the hidden crisis that's been growing there for a long, long time. And what you're seeing here, it's just this devastating domino effect. Once we start dumping heavy chemicals on the land, it kicks off a chain reaction. The soil, it just becomes lifeless, kind of like dust. All that crucial organic carbon vanishes. And the billions of tiny microbes, they're like the invisible workforce of the soil. They're just wiped out. And that mess doesn't stay in the field. Nope. It seeps into our water, our air, and climbs right up the food chain, straight to us.
So yeah, that's pretty grim. What's the alternative then? Well, that brings us to the very heart of this whole thing, the idea and the reality of natural farming.
So what is natural farming, really? Well, think of it as a partnership with the planet. It's completely poison-free, it's super low cost, and it's all built around one simple rule. Don't just try to avoid messing things up. You have to actively work with nature's rhythms. It's about tapping into that incredible web of life that already exists in the soil to grow food that's good for us and good for the earth. And listen, this is a point we absolutely cannot miss. This whole thing isn't just about the environment, it's about economics. A huge driver behind natural farming is to slash the costs for the farmer. The goal is to get rid of the need for all those expensive fertilizers and pesticides. And by doing that, you can free farmers from that awful cycle of debt and give them back their independence. All right, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like on the ground? What does a farmer do? Let's break down the core techniques that make it all happen. Okay, the whole system really stands on a few brilliant pillars. First up, you've got Beejamrut. The best way to think of it is like a natural vaccine for the seed. It protects it right from the very beginning. Then you have the powerhouse, Jeevamrut. This stuff is basically a super potent living probiotic for the soil. You're pouring millions of good microbes back into the earth to kickstart the whole ecosystem. And finally, mulching. This is as simple as it sounds. It's like putting a protective blanket over the soil. It keeps moisture in, makes the microbes happy, and breaks down over time to create brand new, rich topsoil. And you see, this is where the mindset really shifts, doesn't it? You stop thinking of yourself as just a person who grows crops. You become more of an ecosystem curator. You're not just planting seeds, you're building this tiny, resilient, living world that can basically take care of itself. And what's so cool is that when you start farming this way, the good stuff doesn't just stop at the edge of the field. It ripples out. It creates these amazing benefits for pretty much everything. Our planet, our health, and even our wallets. First, let's just talk about the planet. The environmental wins are huge. When you bring that soil back to life, it acts like a giant sponge, holding onto water so you don't need as much. And because you stopped using all those pesticides, the farm becomes a safe haven for bees, butterflies, and all the other friendly insects that our environment desperately needs. And for us, for people, the benefit is so direct. The source material had this fantastic phrase for it, calling it a protective shield and health protection. I love that. By simply getting the poisons out of our food system, we're building a shield for ourselves and our families. It's a straight-up investment in public health. And then there's the farmer. For them, this can be absolutely life-changing. When your costs just plummet, you're no longer dependent on buying all these expensive inputs from big companies. It shatters the cycle of debt, it builds real financial stability, and ultimately a much more secure future. It's about bringing profit and dignity back to farming. Now, of course, a change this big isn't going to happen overnight. It's a journey, and there are definitely some real challenges on the path to this new harvest. But you know what? There's also a ton of hope. We have to be realistic here. This is not a magic fix. Making that switch from chemical farming, well, it's a process. It takes time, patience, and a lot of learning. Honestly, the biggest hurdle isn't in the dirt. It's in our minds. For this to really take off, it's going to need a huge push for education and real support for the farmers who are taking the leap. But here's the good news. The ball is already rolling. The momentum is building. The source material tells us that governments at both the national and state levels are actually starting to push for this change. People are beginning to realize this isn't some fringe idea. It's a critical next step for the future of how we eat. So that brings us right back to that first question we started with. After you see the damage that fighting nature causes, and then you see the incredible potential of just working with it, well, the answer starts to feel a lot clearer, doesn't it? Maybe the most innovative thing we can do for the future of our food is to remember the wisdom that's been in the soil all along. Makes you think, right?